Finding the perfect reference image for your next illustration can be long, grueling, or just plain impossible. But what if we Frankensteined a bunch of images together to make the perfect, unique reference image? That's what I do sometimes. Let me show you how I do it. Hey y'all, I'm Brad and welcome to my digital art channel, Brave the Woods. Today's episode is another illustration walkthrough. I love doing these because it gives me an excuse to draw something super fun, sometimes ridiculous like today's, but also it gives you a little sneak peek into my creative process, which hopefully is helpful to you. Okay, you might be wondering, how did we get here? How did we get to a crab attacking a seagull? Well, I love drawing animals, and sometimes it's just fun to think which animal would win in a fight. I don't know, the why isn't important, it's the how that's important right now. And let me tell you, drawing animals fighting brings up a lot of issues in terms of photo references. It's sometimes impossible to find the perfect image, and even if there was, it still wouldn't be unique. So while we're illustrating today, we're gonna learn how to solve this problem. No matter what, when I'm starting an illustration, I always start with a really loose sketch. I don't really need to go and look at images yet. I mean, I can look up what crabs look like, but I have a good enough idea of what a crab looks like to draw a really crappy loose sketch of one. Because the idea here is that we're kind of just figuring out, one, the concept, and two, the composition. What's this layout gonna look like? And of course, I chose to draw a crab here, kind of attacking a seagull with its little claws. I might have to make this a little smaller, which is the reason why I sketch on the iPad. Then I'm gonna start drawing the head of my seagull here. I don't really know what the body is gonna look like. That's where I'm gonna need my reference images, but I have a good enough idea where I can say, okay, I want the wings kind of going crazy, right? I want its wings to kind of be going crazy on here because it's getting snatched by a crab. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what all the little details are. Maybe I'll do his little feet right here. I don't have them all, but this is good enough to get me started. And there we go. I have the idea. It's completely original. I didn't look at anything first, and I can get those ideas quickly out of my head. And especially if I have a lot of them, I can just knock them out really fast. Okay, so now we can go ahead and look for reference images. We've already got all of our original ideas out of our head. They're completely unique. And now we just need help with the photo references. Now, I've drawn a lot of animals, but I have never seen this, and I'm not really sure how I want especially the seagull, how that body's gonna kind of turn like that with the feathers and everything. I'm not really sure how that's gonna look. And I suppose I could take a photo of this scene happening. I'm not sure how I'd pose that. And I've looked around and I haven't found one online. So we're gonna have to make our own. What I'll do is, when I do this kind of thing, I'll just go and take my sketch and I'll lower the opacity on that layer. Just slide that slider all the way down because I'm gonna build on top of this. We're gonna do a little bit of Frankensteining or collaging, if you will. But you don't need to find references for the entire bird, for the entire seagull. I just want parts of the seagull in different images and I'll piece it together. So for example, I found this great image here of a seagull with its mouth open. I think that's gonna be perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna erase, just really loosely, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? We're just gonna kind of, ooh, that's perfect actually. We're gonna erase all around here, just where the head is. There you go. And then we'll take out everything else like this. And now we need to place that noggin right over here. I'm gonna probably just lower the opacity a little bit on here so you can kind of see what we're doing. But yeah, I kind of like that. I need to tilt it a little bit more. Okay, next bit. Let's. So we found the head. The rest of the body didn't really work, but I like the angle that it was at. So then I also found this one right here. I think that's the other one I have. How many more do I have? Ooh, I kind of like that one too. So you kind of pick and choose. Sometimes I just pull out the references just to look at and just to see how those wings would be. But I really like this one. So I'm gonna go through and we're gonna take the parts off that we don't need. Oh, I kind of like the foot. Let's just take this bit off right here. I'm gonna leave the foot in there. Probably gonna move it, but that's not important right now. We just want to figure out the gist. of this body form. Okay, so now I'm going to lower the opacity on that one. Make sure the head's available over here. And here we go. We start Frankensteining this thing together. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Then you just need to play with the scale a little bit. So that scale might be a little bit big, or needs to move down a little bit. And I feel like that's looking pretty good. Okay, so then we got that one. So we kind of have our seagull in here. Now we need to do our crab. One of my crab. Actually, I use this more for the color reference. But this crab right here, this is a good one right here. So we're gonna lower the opacity. This looks like a 3D rendering actually of a crab. So we're gonna be kind of having attacking the neck of our seagull. But I don't like where all this. I want it to kind of be grabbing the neck a little bit more. So I'm gonna move my eraser size down a little bit. So it's gonna have its claw around the neck. I'm probably gonna move this claw completely and bring it up over here. There we are. Something like that. And then I'm gonna change up how that foot looks, but okay, look at that. Now it actually is looking closer to what the final is going to be, and we have a nice little reference image. Now it's not perfect. Look, a lot of times I'm gonna have to change up this crab a little bit, but this is the main Frankensteining part, right? You got all your photos in there, and then what's left is just cleaning up everything. So what I might actually do is just merge all that together. I don't always do that, but this is just for the sake of this video. I'll merge it down. Start a new layer, and I'm gonna go back to my sketching, and I'm gonna try to clean this whole thing up. So make some clean lines over here where the body is. Okay, up to where the neck is gonna go, all the way up to the bottom of the head. I'm gonna go like this. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. Now, I'm tracing over. This is kind of a quick way to get your main forms. You can go through, and if you feel like that's cheating for some reason, by all means, you can just eyeball this, and I could definitely do that, and I do it a lot, but sometimes you're just trying to get the forms in real quick, because we're gonna change this anyways, so it's more of just to kind of get the main idea down. So I'm gonna kind of go like this, and I'm gonna clean it up. There we go. Helps me just kind of figure out where things are very, very quickly. I'm gonna add a little tongue. This is where you can, add in all the little fun stuff. And then I don't really like how that foot's looking like it's on the ground, so I'm gonna kind of have it going like, like it's sticking out, like it's in distress. And this wing, I want to see more of those feathers, so I'll make sure to showcase those and whatnot. But this will all kind of change. We're also going to make this a little darker right here for the tips of our seagull wings. But that's kind of coming together pretty quickly. So we got our claw here. And again, I'm just using it as a loose reference right here. If you want to trace over it, you don't need to trace it exactly, because the idea is that you're gonna make some things and change this to be your own anyways. You just want to kind of get that idea. So I want to see how those legs are, right? Go through, they're kind of sectioned off. I like how this one right here is good to know that one goes back there, and that these ones kind of overlap. These ones overlap the body a little bit. And then I can go through and maybe I'll add some more. Here, I'll add some more details here on the crab shell. I kind of want to make it more ridged. And there we go. Let's take out that background. So much better. So much better. And it kind of feels right. Oh, I didn't add the tail. So I had the tail like this in my sketch, but I was kind of thinking if I did this, I might have the tail kind of come out over here. Kind of like it twist the body a little bit more. But all right, so that's where we're at. I'm going to clean this up even further. I'm going to go on to the next step. Once the sketch is done, I went through and cleaned it up a little bit, so this is more accurate to the final. Now I need to block in my shapes. And the way I do that is I lower the opacity again on the final sketch, even more. There we go. And I like to set it to multiply so that it kind of shows through a little bit better. And then I'm going to add a layer underneath it. And then I'm going to start dropping in. The colors don't matter as much right now, but it will be nice to kind of put a background in if you know that your seagull is going to be white. It helps to kind of see what that color is going to be. But my main goal here is just now to even further refine. So this sketch isn't perfect, but I'm going to make it a whole lot better just by adding in my little details right here. So I want to add a little bit more of that scalloped edge. Bring this around. Oops. Like this. And kind of clean up all of my sketch. So the main reason why I'm blocking in these shapes. Now make sure that if they're connected and you want to change the colors or add textures to different parts, that they're all on their own layers. So for example, I'm going to do the legs that are behind the shell in a different color. Again, it doesn't really matter what that color is right now, but it does matter that they're on separate layers. So all this can kind of be on the same bit right here. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to try the best I can to kind of separate out these little notches on the legs. You know, their legs are kind of segmented. So I'm going to try to do that as I'm drawing it right here. So let's say I have like another section. This is not exactly what it'll look like at the end, but it gives you the idea. So I'll try to draw the sections and kind of go like that. So the idea is that I have everything. Even these legs you might want to put them on separate layers. It was a little bit difficult to work with like this, but not bad. And I'm going to go through and I want to make sure everything is on separate layers so that later when I go and add, I can change colors easily. That's the main reason. And two, that I can make a mask over these shapes and I can add my textures inside them. So I'm going to go through all of these, add all my layers. I'm going to go through and do white for my seagull, block out all of those shapes, and then I'll be ready to go in and start adding color and textures. But it also just really helps me refine my illustration or my sketch that much further. Okay, so now we've blocked out our main shapes and we are ready to add some clipping masks and add the fun part, which is all the textures and colors. Now I've kind of started on the colors here. You can see on the crab. I like the blues and the greens per my reference image that I had earlier. I'm not sure if I still have my reference image. But I did like the colors that I had on that. So I kind of start blocking in the colors as well if I can. I tried to make a color palette beforehand to kind of get me excited about the illustration. So if you don't know how to do that already, it's really, really simple. You just go to your palettes little icon down here and you can just hit that plus sign and create a new palette and then just tap whatever color you're on. If you go to like the disc, you can create another color. Let's do like a nice bright pink here. And we'll go to palettes and you can just add all of yours that way. And if you want to get rid of it, you just delete it. But whichever one says default, that's the one that's going to show up at the bottom of your other color pickers. So I didn't name it, but this is the palette I'm going to go with. And so that's where that's at. And then the seagull, you can see this is where we're going, right? This is taking the next step and adding all those textures and things. You can see right here, I have all these on different layers. The more layers, the better always, especially when you're doing things like more painterly, I feel like, because that's the benefit of working digitally, is that you can go through and add all these different layers and adjust them later on. You can do layer adjustments here and mess with, you can multiply some of them or whatnot and really change how each layer affects each other. So that's a nice option to have. So I just do lots and lots of layers so I can go back and edit it later. But that's the main shape right there. Okay, so that's the seagull, but we need to work on the crab because that's the part we're gonna do. So we're gonna talk about how we add in real easy clipping masks. Let me see where was I at? I think I was on watercolor? Yeah, I was on watercolor brushes. All right, so let's start adding some highlights and things on this crab shell. Now I have the main shape right here. I'm gonna go ahead and add another layer right above it. If I tap on it, I can just add clipping mask, and now everything that I do is gonna stay within that shape, which is really nice. But the thing is you can do that same thing with alpha lock right here on that layer. If you do alpha lock, it's the same exact thing. The problem is that when I wanna go change things, that's all on one layer. So I can't, multiply that blue onto that green. And you'll see why that's important. Let's say I wanna let's do this. Let's take off that alpha lock, add another layer, clipping mask, and let's take that clipping mask. Let's say I want to multiply it. So I want that blue to be kind of my shading technique, right? There you go. So it kind of makes a darker green, which is what I want. So it feels still pretty cohesive with the rest of the piece. So now when I go in here, because if I didn't, you'll see if I took that multiply off and just did normal, you see it's that blue color, but I like to use it as my shading color. It does feel really cohesive across the whole piece when I have those blues elsewhere. So instead of just making straight black, it kind of makes it feel a little bit more harmonious with the whole piece. So then I'll go through and add my little, my little shadow parts right here. So maybe there's a little bit more detail in the shell, and then maybe a little bit more over here. And now for highlights, the great part is, so if I add another layer, add another clipping mask on top of this, I can do my highlights, but they don't have to be multiplied. So great part about working with lots of layers. Oops, I didn't do that. Oh, let's do this, go back. There we go. Tap and hold, get a new color. Let's lighten this up just a little bit for our highlight. New layer, clipping mask, I think I went too far back. And now we can go in here and add some highlights. Maybe here on the edges. Maybe a little bit over here. But you can really start doing all those things. Everything you want. The nice part about it too is like when I'm working, sometimes I like to do like big, broad textures. And when I'm doing those, I can do those over the entire shell here because I'm not worried about it going over the edge. So yeah, so then you can start adding your dimension in super, super quick. Now I don't feel like I'm limited to just this edge, right? Once I've made the shape, I can still alter it a little bit if I want to, so I don't have to feel like I can't do anything else now that I'm stuck with this shape. You can always alter that, but it's just a great starting point for you to go from. And then I'll go back down to do the same thing with, let's do the crab legs. Another clipping mask. I'm gonna go back to my blue color here. Here we go. And let's see, should I multiply that? We'll multiply it. And which legs is it? Oh yeah, it's these legs over here. Oh, I love that blue. I love how that blue looks. So now we're gonna kind of separate some of those legs a little bit, or little parts of the legs, the segments, with just a little bit of blue over here. And maybe if I even shrink that down more, I can start adding it at the joints. So it really starts to come to life. To kind of separate that leg. I don't need line work. Now I do line work, we'll talk about that in the next video, but line work typically is just to kind of, if there's parts that just still feel like they're kind of blurring together and you want to show like a part of the body really standing out, then I'll add a little bit of an accent line, but we'll do that here in a second. Right now I'm just trying to kind of block out these shadows and make sure everything kind of is the right color. So maybe I even want to add another different kind of green. What greens do I have? Maybe even a lighter green there on the leg, but I'll do another layer for a new color. And maybe that's what this is going to look like down here. Nice fade, a little gradient to that green. But yeah, anyway, so that's the next step, is going through and adding all those textures in here. I'm doing it kind of painterly, which is kind of fun on these graphic shapes that I've been using. And the last step, we're going to add all those details. All right, so we're nearly finished. You can see here all the textures that we've added in here, the shading. Look how much dimension there was just added from where we were in the last part to this. I feel like it's come such a long ways. It's not finished yet. We're super, super close, but I'm getting really, really happy with how this is looking. Now, obviously, you can see here on the mouth here of our of our seagull that we're kind of lacking some details, and we're gonna add some feathers, and some things feel a little bit blurry. I say that because, you know, when I'm using those kind of, it's like a watercolor brush, it's hard to give a nice hard edge on things. It makes some really nice defined contrasting lines. So like right here on the foot, it starts to feel a little blurry, even right here on the claw. So I wanna make sure, I don't have to outline the entire thing, but I do wanna add a few little hints here and there to kind of define the edges of specific shapes so things stand out. So for example, I'm gonna go ahead and start a new layer on top of everything. I might use this pencil brush. I like this blue, and I'm gonna multiply it like so. Let's check the size of this. It's a little big. Okay, I think I like that. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go through and start adding just some really subtle line work. Just here and there. It doesn't have to be all over the entire illustration, but for example, I do want to show this beak. I want to show more detail on that beak. You can see kind of all the different parts of it. On second thought, I kind of think I want something a little bit less gritty, like that pencil's a little gritty. Yeah, I think I want something with a little bit more of a shape. So then now I can go in here and I can even go back at this point. So a few times, like I'm not really liking how solid that looks, but with the shading, I can go back to my watercolor and I can go in here and I can kind of fill in this part of the mouth to kind of give it, yeah, there we go, there. I like that a little bit better. So you can always go back. Make it feel a little darker inside the mouth. You can erase, ooh, it's a huge eraser. Let's go back. We can start erasing some of this little excess. And then, yeah, maybe we just want to go back to the little brush pen that we have going on. Start adding a little bit more details. Maybe a little bit more right there. But see how already that's starting to define the shapes more? Sometimes it's kind of hard because there's not enough contrast, especially between like the beak and this dark shadow underneath. So now it's really starting to pop. You can see all these details. I even started to add, you know, I wanted to add a few like little bits of spit coming out of the mouth there. I think that's kind of funny. There we go, I like that. Maybe on this side where the wing is, I can add just a little stroke right here, just to add a little bit more, just a little bit, you know, just setting it apart a little bit more. Because some of these things, look at these, like right here, they kind of blend together a lot. So maybe I can come in here and add some, just a few little lines to really define that feather pattern. I don't know. But it's worth trying, and you can always go back. I kind of go a little too far, and then I like to rein it back in. But I'd rather do that than never go far enough, and just have it feel unfinished. So kind of start with pushing it a little too far, then you can always rein it back in. Same thing here on the arms here of our crab. Those little segments there, I think, are really important to show, especially like right here. It's kind of nice too because this kind of has a built-in shadow, right? It kind of makes that shadow coming off of our claws onto the bird, onto our seagull. It's pretty cool. And if you want to make things a little bit darker, you know, you can go in there and start adding a little bit more of a shadow there. That's probably where I would go back and use the brush, the watercolor brush, but you get the idea. So I'll kind of go through and see this part starting to get a little blurry, especially here on the legs. I can kind of block in the shadowy areas a little bit more. And then everything starts to really stand out. But yeah, that's how I do my finishing touches. And if I want to add a few more things, like maybe I want to add a rock over here, that might be kind of fun. Maybe some feathers flying out everywhere since this bird's clearly in distress. There we go. Add a line on here. Add some feathers kind of popping off the edge, but this is all just kind of finishing fluff, but you get the idea. So that's how I kind of finish it off, is kind of find the areas that need a little bit more refinement, need to have a little bit more contrast, and that's where I start adding my line work. And there you have it, we are finished. We got our crab attacking a seagull. I feel like that's just cosmic karma right there. I saw you eyeballing my fancy new digital art glove by TCO. Yes, it's true, I do feel more powerful when I wear this glove, but more importantly, it helps my hand glide smoothly across my iPad Pro surface so that it doesn't get sticky, and also keeps my pinky and my palm from making unwanted marks on my screen, which happens all the time. I've tried on other digital art gloves and they just never quite fit right, or they just were too cheaply made that I just wasn't worth wearing them. But not in TCO. They use quality materials, they're really good looking gloves, and they're really comfortable because they have a perfect fit sizing guide that you can use to make sure it just fits your hand just perfect. Now, if you're not really a glove person, you don't want to wear anything, and TCO also does have a palm coaster, which is a great option for you because it does all the same things. You just place your hand on it and get drawing. You can find a link to all of TCO's products right below in the description. Well, thanks so much for watching today. I hope these tips were helpful and that they didn't really suck the magic out of the whole process. That's not my goal, right? My goal is to help you see how I problem solve. In a lot of my illustrations, I try out different styles. So each time I'm kind of solving a new problem in a different way. There's no real equation for it. So, and this time I was just trying to figure out a way to find a good reference image for these animals in unique positions. So I find each time I do this, I kind of discover new ways to create. So I think the most important part is that you're creating, you're experimenting, and you're making something original in the end. Well, as original as anything is. But hopefully this was all helpful for you. Thank you so much. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you next time.